Hello, everybody, and welcome to the PHLY Eagles podcast on a Wednesday at noon here in Indianapolis. Bo Wulf, Zach Berman on Radio Row, joined by Fran Duffy of PhiladelphiaEagles.com. Fran, how are you? Thank you for joining us and playing along as we all sit here without any pants on.
Yes, as we know, that is always on the table when you are involved. But
Whoa. Do not put it on the table.
I'm very, very happy to be with both you guys here for Radio Row. Excited for the three-man weave since it was just me and you at the Senior Bowl.
Yes.
To have Zach here with us today.
And I'm not in on the no pants bit. Like, we're all very professional here. We're wearing pants.
Clearly,
Let's make that abundantly clear.
Okay. Some of us are wearing pants. Let's at least keep it at that. We've got a lot to talk about today. We're gonna just sort of rapid fire throw some draft questions at you, Fran, as we are here for the Combine. We've got next week to really preview free agency, all that good stuff. But we want to make use of you, so we want to do a little bit of that. But before we do that, Zach, give us a little Stone Cold Newsman update to kick things off.
Sure. Since we last spoke, the NFLPA released their player survey. They did this last year at the Combine. It came out today. We're going to get into it in tomorrow's show because we have Fran today, and we're going to talk draft here in the Combine. But just to give a quick overview, the Eagles were ranked number 4 among 32 teams overall. And among the A grades were the cafeteria, which Fran can attest to.
Yep.
Head coach and ownership also received A's, and weight room received an A-, and the strength coaches received an A-. So we'll get into more. And then if I gave the A grades, I should give the C grades too. The treatment of families was a C grade, and the team travel was a C grade. So we'll get into all those details tomorrow. That's what Bo calls a tease. But that's the news at the top. Back to you in the studio.
Thanks. Great. We'll talk about that tomorrow. I've got some more thoughts, I think, on the Nick Sirianni stuff from yesterday that we can get to, but let's save that for tomorrow. Let's talk draft with Fran. First of all, how are you?
I'm great. I
love an Indy.
Yeah, I love an Indy. It's a great food city.
Great job, dynamite dropping.
It's a great food city. I think, and I know you and Sheil will bust on other writers for saying this. They should never move the Combine from Indy. They really should not. All the other options, it just makes too much sense to keep here for a lot of reasons. Yeah, but from what I understand, that was not a pleasant experience. For most people.
I loved it
from an event standpoint. But to each his own. I love Indy though.
Just the connectivity,
the connectivity.
How about we go somewhere where, and I know that the weather was nice the first couple of days. It wouldn't be the worst thing in the world to go somewhere where it's not freezing every day,
right?
Every year.
Yeah, that's why they have jackets. So you do have a jacket when you walk off the plane. I think the big thing is obviously the efficiency from the medical portion of it. That is a big reason. That's why it hasn't moved yet. Is that they haven't found a solution for getting 320 plus MRIs done in over a 4-day span, and having all of those medical facilities here in downtown Indianapolis.
It's so crazy. This is the only place in the country with hospitals.
Well, there's a reason why it came here to begin with, and the central location being a part of that. But having all of those facilities ready to go, this is a big convention city already. So having all of that stuff in place, it just makes too much sense.
Bo, being a big Goodell guy, wants to monetize the Combine a little bit.
Of course.
So.
No, I just
any way to make a buck. Both.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
Okay. And Zach, did you have a good evening last night?
Yes, I love coming to the Combine. Nice evening, nice dinner with you, among others.
Who between the two of you do you think enjoys the Combine more?
I would say Fran.
Wow, I feel like it's
close.
An admission for you, Zach.
No, look, I enjoy the Combine. I think Fran probably gets more out of the Combine than I do. And so, Fran's going to be at in the stadium this week. And so I love I just love all these NFL people in one city.
Yep.
And there's a certain energy, there's a certain buzz. It's the start of the non-playing season from my perspective.
The NPO.
There you go.
I don't know why you call it the NPO. It's CMPS. But no, I will give Fran the honors there, and I will gladly take the owners' meetings mantle.
There we go.
So,
Yeah, we all know that.
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
Mr. Money over here. Okay. All right. Let's talk a little shop here,
Okay.
Fran. I want to start with having known you and your draft process for a very long time, and some of the things that are some of your best historic things that you were a little bit outside of consensus on and nailed. I believe that corner is one of your, if not your best position. Now you may feel free to disagree, but I think cornerback is a very realistic possibility for the Eagles in the first round or in the second round with those 2 second-round picks. How do you see this group stacking up? How does it compare to years past?
I think it's a good cornerback group. It's not the same as a couple years ago when you had Patrick Surtain and J.C. Horn both go in the top 10. There's not going to be that kind of draft this year where you see those two guys go off that early. But I think there are a lot of players you can be really excited about, especially in the first round. So Cooper DeJean from Iowa, he's not going to work out here
That's
this
the white
week in
guy,
Indianapolis.
so everybody knows.
The corner from Iowa. Yeah,
he's a cornerback from Iowa who's great athletic testing. Who played the Big Ten. Yeah,
the great athlete who could be a corner, a nickel, a safety. He's done a little bit of everything. He's been a great punt returner, tough, physical, instinctive man, zone, press, off, inside, outside. You love everything about Cooper DeJean from that standpoint. Quinion Mitchell from Toledo, you got a chance to see him down at the Senior Bowl, first-round prospect all day.
Let me everybody else from here on out is going to be not white, correct?
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
So now that's established.
Okay,
Thank you.
just want to make sure.
I like both Alabama corners, Kool-Aid McKinstry and Terrion Arnold. A lot of people really like Nate Wiggins as well, really athletic corner from Clemson. So there's a bunch of, that's 5 names right there that people are talking about in the first round of this draft.
So for the Eagles, tell us what would a Vic Fangio corner look like, and what are the skill sets that would be a little bit different than other teams might be looking for?
I think that over the course of Vic Fangio's time in the NFL, you go to San Francisco, to Chicago, to Denver, I think a lot of people are quick to point, it's quarters coverage, so it's a lot of zone-based things. But you go to Denver, and his last year in Denver, they played man coverage as not as much as anybody, but they played a lot of man coverage, and more so than that they had played previously. And a lot of that was because of the talent that they had at corner. They drafted Patrick Surtain, and they said, this guy's one of the best young corners in football already. We're going to play a lot of man. And so I don't know that I would look at it and say, look, they have to go with Quinion Mitchell because, he played so much off zone, and that's what how they're going to be. I think that there's always the mix of the on field and the off field. And so that's going to kind of open the door for really any of these guys. And then it's going to be up to Vic Fangio and the defensive staff to really kind of cater what they want to do from a coverage standpoint to that player's skill set.
You mentioned the 2 Alabama corners. Kool-Aid McKinstry was the cover photo for today's show. It seemed going into the year, he was getting more of the hype. And he was like the top guy. Terrion Arnold overtook him. Is there some post-hype charm to Kool-Aid? And is he someone who I guess, do you see Terrion Arnold as the superior player? Or do you think there is some charm to Kool-Aid?
Yeah, I think that when you look at Kool-Aid, the reason why he probably got a little bit more of the hype, he started as a true freshman. And when you do that for Nick Saban in the secondary, there's going to be a lot of hype associated there. He was a 5-star recruit. Obviously, the name for what it is, there's name recognition there, right? So one of the best names you could find. But I think when you look at Kool-Aid, how he tests this week, I think will be a little bit lesser than when you compare him to some of these other corners that we've talked about. I don't think he's going to test as well as Wiggins. He wouldn't have tested as well as DeJean if DeJean was going to go. I think Arnold will test a little bit better. Quinion Mitchell, I think, is going to run in the 4.3s. I think he's going to run a little bit better. So I think when you look at the overall testing, I don't think Kool-Aid is quite that level of athlete. Still a good athlete, but I think with all those other guys, you're talking in that blue chip level. If you look at the relative athletic score, the RAS score, those guys are all going to be like 9+, and I think Kool-Aid's probably going to be in like that 8.5 to 9. So we're picking nits there, but I think when you look at Terrion Arnold, a little bit more traitsy. So like the height, weight, speed is going to be a little bit more intriguing there. The ball production was absolutely there for him this past season. Both of them were starters coming into the year, so it's not like you didn't really see anything of Terrion Arnold. But I think this past year
is it the kind of thing where the ball production is there because the teams were throwing away from McKinstry?
Well, I can tell you that here this year. So this past season, Terrion Arnold was targeted on 17% of his pass coverage snaps, and Kool-Aid McKinstry was targeted on just 8%. So, yeah,
Oh.
the team stayed away from Kool-Aid McKinstry, whereas they went at Terrion Arnold. Now, Arnold did come through and was productive this past season, but he did see a little bit more action.
All right, so one of the nice things about being here in the Combine, we're in the corner, so we get to see everything that's going on at Radio Row. We see people walk by. Peckness migrate, Dane Brugler, Greg Cosell, Tony Pauline.
All right, so that's a good one. I mean, I think I have to nest Dane Brugler.
I think you got to.
Yeah, you got to nest Dane Brugler. I mean, I think you got to.
I mean, those are some interesting pecks.
I think I'm gonna peck my longtime co-host on the Eagle Eye in the Sky podcast, Greg Cosell, and then migrate Tony Pauline.
Well, let's hope that he doesn't see this.
I mean, he might have gotten his 4 mile. He might be out running right now. He's I know he runs like 4 miles a day or whatever it is.
Yeah. Okay. Now, so Cooper DeJean, he's not testing this week.
He's not. He had an injury late in the season. Nothing too serious, but it did cost him the last couple of games for Iowa, and then it cost him a little bit of the training period. So he's going to try. Dane actually reported a couple weeks ago that he's going to try and test for teams in April.
And the thought process that he might move to safety, is that reverse racism?
No, I don't think so, because he played all over the field for Iowa. Honestly, like a name that popped into my head while watching Cooper DeJean, because there was a lot of this written about this player when he was coming out. Jalen Ramsey was viewed as like, is he a corner? Is he a safety when he was at Florida State? Because he played safety that final year. They wanted to get him inside. They wanted to play him close to the football, because he was placed, down close to the line of scrimmage so often. But he was a dynamite corner, and that's kind of how I view DeJean. I think when you look at the height, weight, speed profile, I think they're very, very similar. Now, Jalen Ramsey, has been an outstanding corner, was a top 5 pick, top 10 pick. DeJean's not going to go that high. Now, if he had tested, maybe there was a little bit more buzz that way. But I think that Cooper DeJean, like from a archetype standpoint, is that kind of defensive back.
Now, this is known as an offensive tackle draft, offensive tackle wide receiver. Why is this such a strong O-tackle draft? Who are the guys that set this apart from, obviously last year was a bad one, but even like a middle of the pack O-tackle?
I think depending on what you want, like you're going to find it here in this class. And so if you're looking for your light-footed, dancing bear type, you've got it. If you want your road grading right tackle, you've got it. If you want the technician, if you want all the different archetypes are all there with this offensive tackle group, and they're there in spades. I mean, you look at Olu Fashanu from Penn State, you look at Amarius Mims from Georgia, J.C. Latham, Alabama, Kingsley Sewell-Mataiya from BYU.
Wow!
And look, you asked me about him at the Senior Bowl. I said I was not ready for it at that point. We're ready now at this point. But, Tyler Guyton and Joe Alt, you just go right down the line. All these guys are legitimate players.
It'd be funny if you messed up Joe Alt.
Yeah, Joe Alt.
Joe Alt's brother played for the Flyers. You know that?
No, I actually did not know that. Oh, there you go. All right,
intel for you guys.
I did not know that one. But no, there are a bunch of legitimate first-round talent prospects at that position. Now it's just going to be beauty in the eye of the beholder in terms of how they come off the board.
Well, let's in terms of eye of the beholder, we know that the beholder here is Jeff Stoutland. We know that he likes to say, I'm looking for unusual traits.
Right? Yep, sure.
Who are the guys who have those unusual traits?
Well, that's what makes this one fun, is that there are a lot of guys you would say
unusual in different ways.
Yes, and that's the thing. So Kingsley Sewell-Mataiya, right? So we'll go back to him from BYU.
Now you're just showing off.
21-year-old rookie who was a captain this past year as a redshirt sophomore, was number 3 on Bruce Feldman's freak list at 6'7", 350 or whatever he came in.
And you do not see a lot of 21-year-olds coming out of BYU.
No, you don't. He's not your typical. He was Penei Sewell's cousin. He started at Oregon and then transferred to BYU this past year. So he's got all kinds of ability. The traits are there. A little bit unpolished as a younger player, but high character. Everything you want. He has started at left tackle and he has started at right tackle. There's a lot to like about that profile. But then you go to Amarius Mims from Georgia. Only 8 starts in his college career. That's you don't see that along the offensive line. But he's listed 6'7", 340, and he does not move like 6'7", 340. He's going to be one of the more impressive movers on Sunday. I can't wait for this offensive line workout on Sunday, because you have so many of these guys that are viewed this way. Troy Fautanu from Washington, similar kind of. He's 6'4", 300 pounds, outstanding athlete. So he's got some unusual movement patterns for an offensive lineman. Tyler Guyton, who we got to see down at the Senior Bowl, he's a former tight end in college, only a 1-year starter at Oklahoma at offensive tackle, who looks the part and is a true outstanding foot quickness, dancing bear type of offensive lineman. And so all these guys are unusual in their own way. J.C. Latham is a brick house. He's probably the strongest player in the draft. He's been a 2-year starter at right tackle for Nick Saban in Alabama. So depending on what you're looking for, again, you've got it in this class. There are some guys with outstanding physical traits.
Are we staying on the tackles? Or I know this is rapid fire.
Go ahead, whatever
so someone posed a question to me the other day, who is the most likely in this class if you had to bet to be an all-pro? And my answer was Brock Bowers.
Okay.
And,
oh my God, here we go.
And there's a lot of talk, right? I saw Daniel Jeremiah talking about positional value last week. Brock Bowers is, I think, just like a different player. What's your view of Brock Bowers? And if you take away the TE and you just look at him as like offensive weapon, does that change the way you view him? Bo's rolling his eyes.
I hate this so much.
Because I side with Bo on the offensive weapon handle. I probably felt differently about that, 4 years ago, 5 years ago, 6 years ago. But I think, look, at the end of the day, like when those guys go into meetings on Wednesday, when they come in for game planning, there's not an offensive weapon room in the building wherever he goes, right? He's going to go to the tight end room, and so he's going to be a tight end. I think at the end of the day, when you look at Bowers, he's outstanding.
He goes to the offensive weapon room. Denard Robinson is his position.
Yeah, right, exactly. I mean, to me, like, people are very quick to say, "Oh, he's better than Kyle Pitts." I mean, Pitts was outstanding.
Oh,
at Florida. I know. I don't have to tell you. Pitts was outstanding at Florida. Yeah. They are very different players.
Yeah.
Pitts was like a wide receiver in terms of his usage and what he ran down the field. Bowers is much more, and he's an outstanding athlete in his own right. It's a shame that he can't go, or I don't know if he's doing a full battery of tests here this week. But when you look at Bowers, he can run. He's really strong. He's really tough. He's not a plus blocker, but he's a more than good enough blocker. And with what he can do with the ball in his hands and at the catch point, I mean, he's a game breaker at the position. That said, I think when you do look at, and Daniel Jeremiah made the point that it's about like the franchise tag number. I don't even think it's necessarily all about the franchise tag numbers either. I think even if you start looking down at like, all right, Travis Kelce and his contract, and from an AAY standpoint, how much he makes a year, compare that. That's like similar to what Gabe Davis is going to make on the open market this year, right? As a mid-level wide receiver too. And so to me, like the proof is in the pudding in terms of how teams value that position.
By the way, I think Bo is going to love Brock Bowers because he's from Napa.
He is from Napa.
Why? Because I'm a wino?
As a wine connoisseur, yeah. As someone who enjoys a good Merlot, I think you would.
Now we got to do a whole sideways thing. I got to tell you we don't drink Merlot. Merlot. Here's my Brock Bowers. On the one hand, there for a long time, like tight ends did not make an impact early, and that has changed of late. So that moves me a little bit. But I mean, if we're talking in the first round, if you're drafting a tight end, that tight end better be one of the 3 best tight ends in the league.
Hence the All-Pro designation that I said.
Okay, yeah. But that is a very small margin for error. And to your point, if you get the 45th best receiver in the league, that is better than the 6th best tight end in the league, right? And tight end is not an immediate need for them. The idea, like the offensive weapon idea, like, if you just put wide receiver next to his name, like, give me a break. If you put wide receiver next to his name, he wouldn't be very good.
I think he would. I think he would be good. Fine. Yeah, I think he would be good, but at the end of the day, he's going to be a tight end, right? And so you kind of have to have that designation. At the end of the day, you want good players, right? And you made you talked about a couple days ago, I believe, on the show, where you said that it can be overplayed a little bit.
I think the surplus value thing is a little bit overstated. Yeah, it's about like the hit rates at important positions. This is where you get good players.
That's the thing, is that if you accept the fact that no one is a certainty in this whole process. I remember the safest player ever was Go Deeks, Aaron Curry.
Aaron Curry, my man.
He is. Can't miss.
Yes, and
he missed. Like, it's like you look at everything about his profile and say, he's going to be a long-time starter in the NFL. Even if he's not an all-pro, he should be a good player, and he didn't make it. And so if you say...
Hipster opinion, I always thought Alfonso Smith was a better player. No, he didn't hit either.
Of course he did. Yeah. But I think...
That's such a Bo Wulf take right there.
Listen, I watched that team play every week. He was the better player on the defense.
But that said... if you're going to take your shots in the first round, you take it at the more boom bust positions. So I agree.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, next position to talk about is the edge. I think, and if we're talking at 22, it seems like this is not a huge 10 guys who are going to go in the first round edge group. I think my most important question to you is, should the Eagles be concerned about drafting a player named Dallas if they have to be in the division with the Cowboys?
Great callback there.
Yeah.
Shout out to Les Bowen. Yes.
That's the Dallas Reynolds
Yes.
question. Even they have a Dallas. The edge rushers feels like not necessarily the strength of this class, but maybe some guys who could be in play at 22 or around that neighborhood.
Yeah, I think that it's similar to what we were saying with corner, where there's not that guy that's going to go, that has a lock to go in the top 5, 6, 7, right? And look, for the first time ever, it might be completely offense only in the top 10 of this draft. But I think when you look at Dallas Turner, you look at Jared Verse, you look at Laiatu Latu, those are the three guys that I think people are talking about, in that, we'll say like 8 to 20 range. And are all those guys going to go in that range? Could somebody sneak in? Could Mizzou's Darius Robinson sneak in there? Is there another player that could potentially break in there? Chop Robinson, right? So, he's going to test well this week. So I think when you look at that position, that's the range where you're seeing the first one come off the board. And then you know how this goes. It's all about, all right, are there going to be runs at other positions that could cause someone else to fall? Latu's medical this week is going to be a big thing. After he had the issue early in his career at Washington that forced him to medically retire before going to UCLA. I did.
Yeah. He did firefighting.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, him and Grant Calcaterra.
Oh, jeez. All right. I did not know that about Latu. I do like Latu. Is awesome.
He's also 35 years old.
I don't know if he's 35, but he's as skilled a rusher as we've seen in the top of the draft. So
Latu.
Yeah, Latu.
Okay.
Yes.
What's the scouting report in terms of like a profile for the players for those other guys?
So Jared Verse started his career at Albany, and then after a couple of years transferred down to the Florida State and was one of the most productive players in the country.
You don't see a lot of Albany to Florida State.
No, that pipeline doesn't really exist typically. But I think when you look at
no nonstop flights from Albany to Tallahassee.
No, good student unions in both towns. But I don't know
both of them actually.
Right. But I think when you look at Jared Verse, he's explosive, he's powerful, he's violent, he's a good run defender. I think the athleticism isn't like a huge strength of his game. I don't think he's going to look great like in the 3-cone or anything like that.
Like an AJ Epinesa type then.
Yeah, I think so. But he's, Epinesa, what I liked about Epinesa coming out was he had like that inside-out versatility. I think when you look at Verse, he's a straight, like more of like a Josh Sweat. Like he is a pure base defensive end. Like let him line up, over tackle and go. That's kind of what you look at here with Jared Verse. The production was outstanding, not just last year, but even this year as well. As he continued to get more attention, he was still a handful for offensive lines.
Okay.
Dallas Turner. Yeah, so he was a big-time recruit. So right up Zach's alley.
Fort Lauderdale, right?
Yeah,
yes.
big time recruit. He is more athletically gifted, and he's been productive. I mean, he was an all SEC performer over the last couple of seasons. If I remember correctly, he had 10 sacks this past season. Was a defensive player of the year in the SEC. 6'4", 240. So a little bit of a lighter package than the other guys, but to me, he can win with length and power, and he can also win with speed. And so, having that ability to win from with multiple ways, I think it's a little bit different than like a Chop Robinson, where everything with him is speed, quickness, first step. I want to win off the ball and turn the corner. That's Chop Robinson's game.
Too quick. I'm deferring to Bo I'm deferring to Fran for all the evaluations. I'm just giving like the little nuggets here.
Sure, yeah.
Okay. Dallas Turner arrived at Alabama as I think he called it a COVID 260. And he says his preferred playing weight's like 255. And then Jared Verse is going to be a Vic Fangio favorite because he's from Berwick, Pennsylvania.
There we go.
So if the Eagles take Jared Verse, we can spread PHLY to like the Berwick audience, and
that'll be huge for us.
I would love the Berwick audience. Berwick's a nice town.
I've never been to Berwick.
I've never been to Berwick.
Nothing against Berwick.
Yeah. Well,
have you been to Berwick?
I've driven through Berwick actually.
Well, that doesn't count.
Yeah, I mean,
Berwick's a nice town.
Did you have a meal? Yeah, did you have a meal in Berwick?
I did not eat it.
I
can't tell you what kind of food.
So now you're just lying to the good people of Berwick. They're going to turn their backs on us.
I didn't go through Berwick and say this is a crappy town. I said this is a nice town. Yeah.
Big
football town.
You didn't even deign them with a stop off. Didn't even pee there.
I did not stop to pee in Berwick. No.
Longtime sickos know that we have Fran's draft spreadsheet is like,
it's amazing.
I mean, it is the thing of legend, and it's unbelievable. But what I am impressed with today is the deftness with which you are able to just pull these things up quickly. I mean, not just the information you have, but the quickness that you're able to just bounce around position to position, pull up these nugs.
Look, I work all year on this sheet, so I know how to navigate it, get in and out of tabs, and be able to find a guy if I need him. So it shouldn't be a surprise.
Do you? I mean, you have a lovely son, Francis.
Yes.
Would you say that this is like your second child?
It is a labor of love for sure. This thing.
And like a child, you've seen it grow over the years.
Seen it grow and evolve over the years. This is my 12th combine. And I would say for the difference between this one and the one from my first combine is definitely a little bit different. It's definitely evolved over the years for sure.
Well, you know what hasn't changed over the years, Fran?
Ooh, I know.
Have a guess.
Transition here.
The great taste of Miller Lite, because it was the original light beer, and to this day, it is still the best one. Miller Lite has more of the taste you want and less of the stuff you don't. Had a nice dinner and drinks with Zach Berman yesterday. Never seen somebody put back so many Miller Lights as Zach did. Miller Lite is great because they keep it simple, undebatable quality, great taste, and only 96 calories. It's the beer that strips away everything you don't need and holds on to what matters most, a light beer that tastes like beer, less filling, and only 96 calories, the original light beer since 1975. And when you are hanging out with your buds, you want a nice bottle of suds. And that's what Miller Lite is bringing to the table. Times change, but you can always enjoy the great taste of Miller Lite. Tastes like Miller time. To get Miller Lite delivered right to your door, visit MillerLite.com/PHLY birds, or you can find it pretty much anywhere that sells beer. Celebrate responsibly. Miller Brewing Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, 96 calories per 12 ounces.
I'm not advocating this, but during draft season, sometimes people sign up for like certain websites, and then they put a subscription in. They plan to cancel after the draft, and they forget to do it. Well,
OnlyFans.
If you're one of those people, make sure you have Rocket Money. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that finds and cancels your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so that you can grow your savings. With Rocket Money, I have full control over my subscriptions and a clear view of my expenses. I can see all my subscriptions in one place, and if there's something I don't want, Rocket Money helps me cancel with a few taps. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all of the app's features. Stop wasting money on things you don't use. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions by going to rocketmoney.com/PHLY. That's rocketmoney.com/PHLY, rocketmoney.com/PHLY.
And while I have you here, you notice that I am wearing some PHLY swag. This is the last day of our 30% off sale on the PHLY locker, so take advantage while you can. You can look like the second most fashionable Eagles beat writer. That would be me, behind Josh Tolentino. Fran, are there guys? I know you're still going through the process.
Yep.
What's our number right now? How many guys have you watched?
I have done just over 190.
Wow.
Yeah, I've watched at least a couple games. So 190, 190 guys.
This is a callback to Zach listening to you saying, "Oh, you do him? Oh yeah, I did him. Yeah, he was good."
That's a good callback. I forgot about that.
Are there guys who you are already ready to sort of plant your flag on as being higher on than consensus?
It's a good question.
You're the Nate Petermans of this draft.
I would say Kingsley Suamataia. I mean, I had to get the name right.
You worked so hard on the name.
That's the thing. I got to make sure that I get it in there. I would say, I don't know if I'm quite ready here on this player, but I am surprised at how little love Keon Coleman from Florida State is getting, the wide receiver, who, you rewind back to September and you go to October. He was a top 15 pick in most mock drafts that you saw. And it feels like a lot of people are, the shine is worn off a little bit. And I'm not really sure why. I think he's going to come out here and he's going to test really, really well. And so maybe that buzz works back the other way. But to me, when you see a 6'4" receiver who doesn't put the football on the ground and can attack all three levels, he's a little bit unpolished as a route runner. I don't think that he's a surefire prospect. I'm like, oh man, this guy is definitely going to make it. But it's the same kind of bet that you make with a DK Metcalf. Where you're going to bet on that height, weight, speed. Now Metcalf had the medical issue that kind of made that a cloudy eval, but I think when you look at Keon Coleman, it's a similar kind of discussion there.
Okay,
I'm higher. I feel like I'm higher on Cooper DeJean than most.
Yeah.
Tyler Nubin, the safety from Minnesota. I do like a Tyler Nubin. He did not go down to the Senior Bowl, but I think when you look at like the height, weight, speed there, the play personality, the way that he plays the game, he's able to impact in a lot of different ways. I like Tyler Nubin from Minnesota. Just kind of looking through the list here in terms of other guys. I feel like Brandon Dorlus would be a player a little bit higher. Yeah, the Oregon defensive lineman.
Lots that transfer, right?
No, he was at Oregon the entire time.
Oh no, you ruined Zach's day.
Well, the big thing, at least from my memory, I believe he was at Oregon the whole time.
Zach is googling frantically this. Oh no! Yeah, this is difficult.
I have it as just Oregon.
Originally committed to Virginia Tech.
All right, you can split the difference there.
Deerfield Beach High School down in Florida.
You had the broad strokes right, but the fact check was wrong.
Right. But Brandon Dorlus, he's cut from the Milton Williams cloth. He is that kind of
another Fran Duffy favorite.
That's right. I was very big on Milton Williams and his ability to win from multiple techniques, his aggressiveness against the run, his athleticism, very similar body types. I think when you look at Dorlus, you look at Milton Williams, I think it's an easy kind of apples to apples comparison.
Okay. And now what about, I said the thing about cornerback being one of your better positions historically. Do you agree with that?
I haven't I haven't quality controlled myself that way. I have confidence in my ability to look at corners though. Okay. I think when you look at,
what are the positions you feel best about? What are the positions? Yeah, Tre'Davious White.
I was big on Tre'Davious White. Xavier Howard. I was big on Xavier Howard. There are a few other guys in there over the years, but I've had plenty of misses as well at that spot.
What are the positions you feel best about, and the ones you feel are the most difficult?
So I very much enjoy studying corners, offensive tackles, and I think that a lot of that is because the body mechanics of both positions. Having to play in reverse, doing the unnatural that for defensive linemen, you're getting
reactionary positions.
Yes, exactly. I think that I enjoy watching that position for those reasons. I love watching receivers. You can get kind of numb watching the same kind of guys over and over, especially from certain offenses. But there are so many different body types at receiver that you're always going to find something that you like. And then pass rush. I love watching pass rushers as well. In terms of what are my worst ones? I mean,
I feel like safety must be
safety's tough.
It's just hard because you got to watch the play so many times to figure out what you think they're supposed to be doing. Right?
Just the way that. That in this role with what I do now, I don't need to have a big board and have constantly update rankings for fans to be able to take in, right? So I can watch 2 games of a player in September and then not watch him again until March, and I'm fine. But if I do that at safety, if I only watch a couple games and then I fast forward 4 months, that can be tough. So with safety, you always feel like you want to watch 4, 5, 6 games. I just don't always have the time to go to watch 4, 5, 6 games at a time of a player. So I would say safety, but I love watching safety because it's so similar to corner in a lot of ways. So I would say that would be the toughest one.
Let's get into the mechanics of when you're watching film. What when you're at home, what's the balance when you're putting the kids to put Francis to bed?
Wrong verb though, by the way. You're never watching film. You're grinding film.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. When I'm doing a guy,
I'm gonna be changing your verbs for the rest of the show now.
So it has changed since we had Francis. So since we were blessed with him coming to us 4 years ago. It used to be I would go into the office very early and I would try and get stuff done early in the morning.
Football guy.
Yeah, right. But so now that has changed. So now I get it more of it done at night. So after Francis goes to bed, maybe we watch a TV show with Meg. We take it in a little.
What are you watching these days?
So I just finished For All Mankind on Apple.
Oh, okay.
Excellent. I loved it.
Space guy?
You're a space guy? I wouldn't say I'm a space guy, but I loved the show. It was I like the alternate history idea for a space guy.
Every now and then Zach says something that has this smile on his face, and I don't know what he's smiling about. And he goes, "Space guy," and he's looking at me like he just said the funniest thing in the world.
Well, he was disappointed with your no sell.
Yeah. That's par for the course.
Space guy?
Yeah, I enjoyed For All Mankind though. The first 2 seasons,
he still loves it.
I know. You got to lay it out. What are we missing here?
Look,
he's having the time of his life.
Yeah, that's a good question.
I thought it was a good question. I'm gonna go to the prospects today. I'm gonna ask them, space guy.
good for all mankind was pretty good though.
Okay, so now post For All Mankind, then you got the late night.
Yeah, so then usually
Are you doing like what's our screen setup at home?
So I've made a nice little setup for we moved a couple 2 Decembers ago. So,
Moving guy?
Moving guy? No. So so when we moved to have my own office, so have a nice little setup in there. A couple screens works out.
So what is it? 2 screens plus the laptop? What?
So at the office,
Okay.
I had a 4 screen setup.
4
Yeah,
screens
well, because
setup.
2 for the film and then 2 for everything else.
Okay.
Like a day trader over here.
Yeah,
I
so
like
I got away from that. I was told it was too much, so we had to back
Okay.
off on that. Our
Everybody
engineer-
else was jealous.
Yeah, we had to back off on that. So I'm down to 3 screens there.
Fran got 4 monitors.
Screen guy.
Okay.
I've got a couple screens and we make it work.
Why can't you give me a straight answer? 2 screens?
3 screens.
3 screens.
Yeah,
I
3
know.
screens.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Go ahead.
So there's a few prospects here that Philly fans are especially familiar with.
Okay.
Anyone who was watching St. Joe's Prep a few years ago remembers the juniors, Marvin Harrison Jr. and Jeremiah Trotter Jr.
High school guy?
I mean, I like watching high school football. So we don't need to get into Marvin Harrison Jr. I mean, I think for the sake of an Eagles show, he's going to be long gone. But there's a lot of intrigue about Jeremiah Trotter Jr. I remember watching a Syracuse Clemson game and seeing that Axeman celebration.
Yep.
I didn't realize that was the first time he did it. He actually made his father cry when he did it. Brought tears to his eyes. You can
That's
find
awesome.
a story on allphly.com about that. What's your sense of Jeremiah Trotter Jr.? And I know in Philly they're scouting the name. If you don't scout the name, you just scout the player. What jumps to mind?
I think a lot of the things you loved about Nakobe at Georgia are present when you talk about Jeremiah Trotter Jr. He's really physical. He's really instinctive. He was the heartbeat of that defense. Even as a young player, a lot of the veterans there would look at Jeremiah Trotter Jr. and he was kind of that guy for that unit. So, he brings the physicality. He's been a good tackler. We'll see how he tests this week. I think that will be important for his draft stock. I think at the end of the day, you're probably looking like middle to late parts of day 2. That would be my guess right now with Trotter.
Do you think that is like duplicative with Nakobe Dean? Would you want 2 guys like that on the field?
I think that it depends on how you're going to play defensively. And at the end of the day, you just want good players. So I don't think that would be – if you had 2 guys that were similar, then maybe you'd go towards the varying skill set. But if he's the best one and it's clear and you know what, that's the guy that we want to go – or that's the position we want to go with here, then I don't think that's a turnoff from that standpoint.
As we think about like how the Eagles can get back to being really, really good, we have talked about like their key to success, I think, is being a top 5 offense. Where are the places in the draft where they could do that? Is there like a day 2 running back who offers a lot of pop?
Definitely. I think in terms of like explosiveness, I don't know that any of the guys we're talking about day 2 are like that kind of like explosive athlete. The only one I would say would be Jalen Warren or Jalen Wright, rather. Yeah, Jalen Wright from Tennessee. He's got some juice. He was a big time sprinter in high school. Was a freakless guy for Bruce Feldman over the Athletic this past summer because of what he can do as a straight line athlete. Showed it this last year at Tennessee too. I mean, it broke off a lot of big plays both as a runner and as a pass catcher. So if you're looking for like some juice there at running back, I would say that he's probably your best bet. But there are a number of backs that I think are going to go off the board when you get into like mid round 2 into round 3 that it's just a matter of when that run starts. So Jonathan Brooks from Texas, Ray Davis from Kentucky is a really tough physical runner, actually started his career at Temple. Audric Estime from Notre Dame. Trey Sermon I really like as well.
Trey Sermon?
Trey Benson, sorry. Trey Benson. I'm getting my names
is there
all jacked
another
up
Trey
here.
Sermon?
Yeah. Trey Benson from Florida State. I think when you look at him and his skill set, both these guys, both he and Ray Davis, Marshawn Lloyd as well, are
A Delaware guy.
tough physical runners, downhill, can work through traffic and have the ability to create their own yardage. So
Martin Frank guy?
Well, he's from Delaware.
I believe you.
He's definitely a Martin Frank guy then.
Yeah.
I feel like Ray Davis is a very funny name for somebody to have these days. Feels like a 1920s name, Ray Davis.
He was
Call him Ray
there.
Diddy
Strong,
if the Eagles get it.
a strong draft take right there.
He was there when
I agree.
when Elmo's first opened. He was there in a dimly lit corner.
Yeah, there's a picture of Ray Davis on the wall
Yep.
and St. Elmo's.
I think Bo's guy among the running backs is going to be Braylon Allen. from Wisconsin. I think the youngest guy in this draft, the 20-year-old, like a 245-pound running back who wears number 0. You'd like to see it, yeah.
You don't know what I like.
I know you like young guys.
Well, that's true.
I know you like young draft prospects, I should say.
Young guy?
Yeah, I'm a young guy. Yeah.
Allen's he's really explosive. I think he's gonna test really well this week. And more of the straight line stuff. So the jumps and the 40-yard dash, I think will look good for Braylon Allen.
What else you got, Zach?
Oh, I have so many things here.
Let's hear.
So we talked about offensive skill guys.
Yep.
On day 2, I would imagine early day 2, but even perhaps in the Eagles range, Texas has 3 offensive skill players who are going to go in that range. Mitchell, is it Adonai Mitchell?
Adonai Mitchell, yeah.
And then Xavier Worthy and Jatavian Sanders. I like Mitchell when he was at Georgia. And then Worthy's a big speed guy, and then Sanders. I mean, I have a tight end fetish apparently. But what's
Thank you for admitting it.
What's your read on
Watch out, Emily.
on the 3 Texas skill guys?
So I like Mitchell. I like Sanders a lot. I like Worthy. So I'm glad you brought all three guys up. We'll start with Mitchell. If you're looking just purely at his top 15, top 20 plays, you would put him up against most of the top players in this class. And what I love about Mitchell too is that when the lights were shining brightest, he always showed up, like the biggest games, biggest moments.
Like a Bradley Roby type.
Or you're like a
dynamite drop.
He's been one of I remember that was the thing that people said about Deshaun Jackson as well. It was like, oh, when we play prime time, you always kind of looked at Deshaun and knew he was going to come through. Mitchell has been that guy both at Georgia and at Texas, and I think when you look at him, he's got a skill set. Again, like when everything looks exactly the way you would want, he looks like an Odell Beckham type. He's got a lot of twitch coming out of breaks. His ability to get off a jam is impressive. He can snag the football out of the air. He's got juice to attack all 3 levels. So there's enough there with Adonai Mitchell. It's just more of a consistency standpoint there. With J.C. Sanders, really athletic, undersized, move tight end type. What can he do as a blocker? That's the question. So that's kind of the archetype he falls into, but he's great with the ball in his hands. He was used a lot down the field. I love that offense with Texas. I think Steve Sarkisian does a great job from a design standpoint, and they do a great job of getting their playmakers the football at all 3 levels, and Sanders was one of those guys they took advantage of. And then Worthy, he kind of reminds me a little bit of Zay Flowers. He's that kind of a player. A little bit undersized, might be more of like a slot, like movement type, but can be used vertically down the field. Had some drop issues over the course of his career, but also showed the efficiency and the ability to make the big play as well. So that's how I view all 3 of those guys.
And then another question I wanted to sneak in before passing back the bow is that the Eagles have gone heavy on the national champs the last 3 years. Michigan is well represented here at the combine.
18 guys.
Yeah.
18 guys?
18 guys.
Wow. I'm not going to ask you to
6 offensive linemen.
Wow.
Backup offensive linemen.
I'm not going to ask you to break down all 18, but who's your favorite of the Michigan players? Because it's not as if you're looking at Michigan guys going in the top 10 here. It's more like in that range that Eagles fans will want to study.
I would say it's J.J. McCarthy would probably be my favorite of that group.
See, again, I mean, the way that you were able to just pull up and quickly search.
I mean, Command F. I'm not like splitting the atom here. Command F. Parentheses Michigan. Like it's
physics guy.
I would say that I look at J.J. McCarthy first off. I love the profile there with him. He'll be a 21-year-old rookie. I know that the volume has not been there from like a pass game standpoint.
And quarterback profile wise, that worries me a little bit.
There's and I think there's something to that when it comes to like the number of passes, but you have to remember too, like it's what people said last year about like the Eagles offense in 2022. Oh well, they haven't been good in the second half of games. It's like, well, that's because it was run the ball, nurse a lead, and kind of run to victory. He came out of games in the second half, like more than half the season this year.
Okay.
They took the pedal off and just kind of wanted to run the football. So he's got plenty of starts under his belt. JJ McCarthy, 28 starts is plenty. He's played just under 1,900 snaps, which is also that's plenty. He just hasn't had a lot of pass attempts, and so I think when you look at it, it's not he hasn't played a ton. It's more just the way that they wanted to play football.
It's like Matt Ryan at Penn Charter.
That is great reference there. That's correct. He used to hand the ball to Tony McDevitt.
How he comes in this week, how he measures will be big. He's listed right around 200 pounds. It's a little bit light, so how big is he? But he'll be a 21-year-old rookie. I love the way he attacks the middle of the field. He's got a pretty live arm, consistent accuracy, and ball placement and touch. I like J.J. McCarthy. I think at the end of the day, he will go in the top 10, top 12 of this draft.
Interesting. I mean, it's probably, if you're from the Eagles standpoint,
that's good.
Like a lot of quarterbacks going early, a lot of wide receivers going early.
Yep.
That pushes some guys down in their range potentially.
Yep. No, I think that will be helpful, and then we'll see in terms of like the offensive tackles. You know, some of them are going to go. How many of them go? I think that will bump some more of those players down.
Just keeping an eye on the chat as the show has been going on. I need to let you know. First of all, Brenna says hello. She's very excited to see you.
Outstanding addition for your team.
We see. Putting the TE in Mistress for Zach. We see Franwich.
Yeah, I like that.
What's going on here? And my favorite, OnlyFrans.
Ah, nice.
My favorite's Fran Duffy needs a coaching job somewhere.
A lot of love for Fran.
That's
Fran,
it's nice to say, but
I'm coaching a 6-year-old flag football team, so I might need you to jump on.
See that I'm all in on. That I will get in because that's the time commitment there.
And you remember when you were designing us route concepts for our flag football league?
Well, that's what you mentioned this on the show yesterday. You're like, oh, I've seen some great receivers in bubble ball. Like no mention of a guy that. How many passes did I ever drop for you?
I mean, listen,
can't give me a name drop.
You were a very good player, but
oh man, oh wow, all right.
First of all,
but
I found you to be more of a difference maker on defense.
On defense, sure.
Okay. Because you were diagnosing everything that was going on.
Yeah.
And I mean, I cannot sit here and honestly say that like Alex Seifert wasn't a more dynamic weapon on the outside. Drew Massiangelo with the enormous speed, the explosive speed that he had. Greg DeLuca.
Yeah.
Wide catch radius. I mean, I like throwing to a friend, but if I'm being honest, I can't put you number one.
I am glad that at least you gave some credit to some name. It wasn't just a nebulous I saw some good receivers. So.
And then I mean Jeff Wiedmeyer, as fast as it gets, although he was usually more on Alex Zirkel's team.
Yes, and what I enjoyed about those days was that while we drafted new teams every week, it was typically the same. A lot of carryover week to week.
And there was one day, I believe, one time when Michael Clay played.
Yes.
And boy, did that make us look ridiculous. I mean he was going like 40% and just like dusting everybody.
Yeah. There's just a different tier, like multiple tiers of athlete when you talk about anyone that had played collegiate football versus just, regular people. It's not close.
Yeah. There you go. Anything else, Spaceman?
I have a question. I snuck in two. So you're up now in the ping pong.
Well, we got to be wrapping this up a little bit because the CHGO guys are coming in a minute. Why don't you give them one more?
One more is, so I was hoping that in your Michigan answer you would talk about Mike Sandstro or Junior Colson.
Okay.
And I ask those because those are two positions that the Eagles fans are watching closely here. And I ask, I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly, Sandstro.
I believe that is correct, yeah.
And because slot cornerback, I heard Daniel Jeremiah say last week, he has, I think, 14 cornerbacks with top 3 grades, or grades in the first 3 rounds. But he said after like the first few, you're looking at a lot of slot guys.
Yep.
And to me, Mike Sandstro's like
one of those guys.
Someone you can fall in love with just in terms of when you watch him play. What jumps out about those two players in particular?
So let's talk with Sandstro first. Listed 5'10", 182, so very undersized, and for that reason has been mostly a slot corner. Came to Michigan as a 4-star receiver recruit and actually played receiver his first 3 seasons there. Caught 5 touchdowns, had a bunch of catches over the course of his first few years, and then made the move over to defense and played nickel corner the last 2 years. Now he is a 5th-year senior, played all 5 years. Will only be 23, so not a huge anchor on the draft stock there, Bo, but has been extremely productive when he has played. You look at just this past season, 6 picks, 6 PBUs, 2 forced fumbles, a sack. Last year, 7 PBUs, an interception, 2 sacks, 6.5 TFLs. He's always around the football. He's got really light feet. The change of direction is outstanding. I expect him to look really good in position drills this week. Only 1 penalty in 26 starts on defense.
Good stat.
A really aggressive player downhill. So I think when you look at Sandstro, has only played defense full-time for a couple of years. He's a little bit older, so there's some projection, but history as a core 4 special team starter, so you're not worried about that. The floor, I think, is really, really high, but now it's just a matter of the ceiling. And so, how he tests this week, I think, will dictate where he goes. If he tests really, really well, I think he's squared day 2. If he does not test well with those other things that we talked about, then I think it's like, all right, we get into like the later rounds. But I do like Sandstro. Junior Colson he's a fun player. He's not the fastest. but he's fast enough. How fast is he? We're going to get a sense here on Thursday night. 6'3", 247 pounds. So he's got legitimate NFL size. And at that size, I don't think that he was a bad athlete. So I do like that a lot. He plays through contact really, really well. He's a strong tackler. He's been in the single-digit what's you a tackle guy?
No, I'm thinking of Chris Jones' 40.
How?
I don't know.
Junior Colson, the last 2 years, has been in a single digit in missed tackle percentage.
What a funny thing to happen.
He overcame that adversity.
Poor guy.
Why was that in your head as I'm talking
I
through
don't know.
it?
I think I was going to ask you a question. Who's most likely to run a 40 like Chris Jones?
So that said, Junior Colson is a good player. I think that he'll probably be in the day 2 discussion, Zach, when it's all said and done.
All right.
Bo's literally crying
real
right now.
real tears coming out of Bo right now.
It's like Jeremiah Trotter watching the acceleration. Bo is shedding tears right now.
All right. That's going to do it for this episode of the PHLY Eagles podcast. Fran, where can our listeners, I mean, obviously they know who you are, but if not, where can they follow you?
Eagle Eye in the Sky podcast, I'll have a recap of the Combine. Myself and Ben Fennell, we did a preview of what to expect in all the drills. So drills don't start until tomorrow afternoon, so you've got some time to be able to take that in. It was about 90 minutes. It was a long show, but got through everything there. I did a cheat sheet series with it's articles getting ready for every position. And I also have a piece coming out this week on behind the scenes of the formal meetings
nice.
of the that happened here at the Combine.
I love that.
Met with some people here with the Eagles. They kind of gave me a sense of the process into those meetings. So that'll be a fun piece.
I look
So
forward to
that's a tease, which you are
What
well
they-
familiar
as
with.
Quick
say in the
nugget to
business.
supplement that, Jeremiah Trotter Jr. has had a formal meeting with the Eagles. So when you read Fran's piece, you would know that this is what happens in those formal meetings.
Yes.
All right. Well, there you go. So that'll do it for the episode of the PHLY Eagles podcast from the Combine here in Indianapolis. We are back in Philly tomorrow at noon, and same thing on Friday. Thank you, Fran. Thank you, Zach. For all of us here, we thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Enjoy your space time. And as always, we love you.
We all silly like the mayor.